issues associated with these options is necessary. As I indicated in the memo, the kind of tried and true process by determining value of a property is through professional appraisal. As I also indicated, professional appraisals for these commercial properties could take anywhere from 40 to 90 days. Obviously, time that is not built into our schedule, so we need to take a look at alternatives to doing so. I think that we may be able to get some general market appraisals conducted by some local realtors if we wanted to go that route. Again, it's kind of an order of it's on a continuum. The greater the information, the longer it's going to take, and the more money you're going to have to spend on it. So in order for us to make these decisions on a timely basis within some budget, we're going to have to compromise on how much information or the level of detail and the, I don't want to say the level of accuracy. I think somebody will try their best to provide a high level of accuracy, but it will be a function of a market appraisal versus a market analysis. So given that, I guess I'm not necessarily making a recommendation, but given the time, my suggestion would be to probably move towards a market analysis approach for all of these properties to try and establish some kind of a basis by which they can be evaluated against one another. And that's, I would offer that out as one option for the property side of the equation.
What are you looking for in terms of decision from us? To just need guidance on that?
Guidance and direction would be great so that we can start moving forward with what makes the most sense for the board.
That motion, there'll be a motion coming up, I assume, that would distinguish between a market appraisal and a market analysis, yes? Is that what you're looking for?
I don't know if a motion is necessary. You can just provide guidance, make a decision on which direction you want to go, and provide that information to staff, and we can start moving from there.
Okay, let's go ahead and do a market analysis. Let's get that done. Let's get it moving pretty quick. Obviously, the longer we take, the more time it's going to take, so that's what we need to do.
Okay. And then the next piece is going to be trying to establish working cost numbers for each one of the options. Again, in conversations with our consultants, obviously their position is that in order for them to provide the highest level of confidence in the numbers that they give us, they will have to get to the point of doing schematic design. Because they really can't, all they can give are general square footage numbers for the projects. If they get down to the level of some schematic design, they can then drill down into those numbers even tighter. And I'll just use some numbers for instance. If a particular type of use is $350 per square foot, if they do schematic design, they can say, okay, we're going to be looking at $350 a square foot for, say, this component of this design, and this other stuff, the hallways or the ancillary spaces, they may only wind up being $280. But in order for them to get to that point, they need to know exactly how to arrive at those specific numbers. That's through schematic design. Again, it's a time issue and a money issue, so it's going to go back to a level of confidence and detail that's comfortable for the Board of County Commissioners. We've been working off of general square footage numbers up to this point. I would recommend that that's probably the appropriate way to continue to move forward. Obviously, each option will have its own set of unique circumstances, but as long as we maintain a consistency in square footage numbers, if we're looking at 15,000 square foot judicial facility on one side and a 15,000 square foot judicial facility on a different side, those numbers are going to play out the same. So I think that we can use the broader kind of gross numbers as long as we ensure that each one of them on its particular location, that the programs are the same. And that would be my recommendation, because again, if we start moving towards schematic design, it's a time and a money issue, and I don't think that our designers have the time right now to get to that level of detail.
It's a no-brainer, Ben. You said it all right there. It's a square foot. That's what's going to be done. You got to think we need to use square footage number. Just continue with that. Make sure compare apples to apples and not apples to oranges, and make sure we have the same square footage in both locations. That way we know the exact number and we're not, playing games.
And then I think one of the things that we may want to request of them will be, as I indicated this morning, one of the things that they're doing right now is they are taking, what they are calling their, 2038 programming, if I'm not mistaken. You know, they're looking out into, the 2038 requirement. And what they're doing is they're taking a long view. They're saying, what are the needs going to be in 20 years? And I think that's probably appropriate for, again, for our programming needs. However, I know that there was at the end of one of our meetings in December or January, I think that those 2038 numbers were pared down quite a bit through conversations with the folks from the court, through conversations with the Archuleta County Sheriff. And I don't know if the information that we've been looking at in these most recent iterations from the designers reflect those changes. So that would be one of the things I think that we should probably ask them to do, will be, again, to ensure that we're looking at comparable projects and comparable programs, that they all reflect the nature of what those conversations were. And I think it was at a meeting in January when, after we convened, I know that the folks from the courts sat down with Bob and Brad, and I know that Sheriff Valdez sat down with them. And I think a lot of the gross square footage numbers that we've been looking at were changed, and I don't think we have that information in front of us. So I'm gonna push those guys to bring that forward, and again, to make sure that when they look at a program downtown, that it reflects those adjustments, and if we look at a program uptown, it reflects those adjustments as well. And then I know this is a challenging question to ask and a challenging position to take, but I think that one of the keys that we need to have is a conversation around the size of the detention facility, because I think that's going to be critical in these conversations. And I know that we've all seen the kind of the program where they can expand the facility over time, but my recommendation would be that in order to ensure that everybody kind of starts from the same place, that program reflect the desires of the county sheriff and the desires of the Board of County Commissioners right at the outset. So we're not saying, well, we're looking at 50 beds everywhere, and all you have to do is subtract off a number of beds to get to where we want to be. I don't think that's the right way to do it personally. I think what we need to do is define what that number is, program it for that, and then if we need to expand, we can look at those numbers in the future, but not try to whittle it back on a per bed basis or whatever the case may be, because then I think that skews the nature of construction.
I think we've got some fine tuning to do. I agree. I've seen numbers for detention centers around 17,000 square feet that vary from $6.8 to $7.2 million. So I'd like it fine tuned, since in either scenario that we're considering, we're talking about a new build of that particular component.
Mm-hmm.
It's a new, assuming you don't move back into the old jail, it's a new jail we're talking about here. So I'd like to know what that means, what that difference means. Well, the same square footage, but the numbers are different, so it should be.
The apples to apples square footage down.
Right, exactly.
The hot springs property and the Borelli side up on top.
And is that 17 million, we've seen a lot of these clover leaf designs, right? So you can add a leaf, right? Is 17,000 square feet all 48 beds? Is there?
The entire footprint.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, because we do have the option of designing for 48 beds
35.
and not plugging in all of the modules at the beginning if the cost is too high.
Yes, and then again, I would recommend that we start if the 2038 build out is for 50 or 48 or whatever the number be, we keep that in the back of our minds, but at the outset, if it's a smaller number, that's what we ask the designers to work to, because then again, it gives a more realistic picture of what the program is without having to say, oh, well, we'll plot out 20 beds or whatever the case may be. You start with what is the need and kind of go from there. And I don't know, Debbie, do you recall what what those final square footage numbers were for courts and
I
probation
don't
from that meeting?
remember the specifics.
I don't either,
I
so-
know that, between the
No.
courts, probation, and the
Wait,
jail.
wait, Debbie,
Oh, I'm sorry.
if she's gonna speak, she's gotta come on.
Oh,
Sorry about
my
that.
apologies.
I don't.
And you can have that conversation.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I apologize for letting it slip like that. Bottom line is that apples to apples is what we're looking for, and, so we can make a sound decision, at least from that perspective, between the two projects, potential projects we're left with. So, if we get there with those numbers, then that'll give us a basis for moving forward. And if we get those sooner rather than later, those numbers are basically just need to be fine-tuned on the uptown site and then built from scratch on the downtown site.
Well, the downtown site actually is gonna be to establish values of those vacant parcels so that they can be evaluated against one another. Because we need to know that if, you know, you have a parcel that's flat and one that has 30-degree slopes on it, 30-degree slopes on it, there's gonna be a different value to each one of those. So we need to understand what the per acre value is for those in their opposition, if you will, so that, because the potential for, some kind of adjustment based on the value of those, based on the topography, can be established, so that we know going in that site A has, you know, is worth this plus X, and site B is this minus X. And we can, you know, kind of work into what a reasonable expectation might be to accommodate, different configurations and topography.
It's important to know, so, you know, our property that we already own, we do the site there, it's gonna cost us probably, you know, 500 to 800,000 more in construction, you know, just to get it to where we can build on site. We exchange properties, it still may cost the same amount, you know, we'll have a flat piece of property at the Hot Springs property.
Well, there's also the consideration for it's already the encumbrance that is on it, being that deed restriction. There is a clear monetary value associated with that as well. If we were to choose, a full Justice Center program on the Hot Springs, on the east side of Hot Springs.
Okay, and that's in the works, right, Todd? I mean, I've had the conversation, even though I haven't had the conversation, but you know what I mean by that. But, we've got that in the works, right?
Well, we've got an agreement in place, but there have been so many balls in the air that we haven't pursued it aggressively until,
Till we
I don't
know.
see a reason to write a check until we know.
No.
But it's there and we're ready to go.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
When will the BOCC see the terms of that potential agreement?
I think there's a rough draft of it in place right now, I have to pull it out. We can provide that to you.
I think we do need to fine tune our site work. Uptown new detention facility is, again, ballparked at 600,000. And that number is different in the original downtown plans because that was wrapped into a full facilities build on our property, which was marked at $2 million.
Which
So-
assumed,
It's gonna be somewhere between 2 million and 600,000, I'm gonna assume.
yeah, the interesting thing about that original one is they provided us a cost model, and this was just kind of I don't wanna say a Taj Mahal, but it was everything. And I think they assumed a 20-acre site at, I don't have that information right in front of me,
It's okay.
but at one point they were talking about a 2-acre site with, you know, what the remediation would be. They assumed a 10-acre site, $250,000 an acre. And obviously, we've never looked at a 10-acre site, so that $2.5 million has some baggage associated with it.
A lot of baggage.
Yeah, which means we gotta clean up these numbers,
Yes.
which I think we all agree. So let's get them cleaned
And
up.
then,
Yeah.
you know, the other question is, there are 2 parcels uptown that are continuing to be part of the equation as well. We'll throw those into the market analysis mix.
Good. Okay. Is there anything else you need from us?
You got enough direction?
I do.